Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we are on verse 20. Let's see. Is it? Yeah. Verse 20 of chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita. Just to connect with the previous one, Lord Krishna said in the verse 19, at the end of many births, the wise men come to me, realizing that all this is Vasudeva, the innermost self. Such a great soul, Mahatma, is very hard to find. So basically he was talking about that after many births, and then we discussed that how we should consider that we have already had many births. This is our last one because we have come across this just to encourage us. That's what the saints and sages say. We have been exposed to this knowledge now. We are studying it. Just to come to this stage, it takes many, starting from a very like bacteria, you have evolved either scientifically or spiritually, whichever way you want to look at it. And then you realizing that this is Vasudeva. Vasudeva is the name of Krishna, meaning जो सब में वास करते हैं, innermost self, our Atma, Brahman. And then such person he called us as Mahatma, great soul, because he knows what a Mahan Atma is, and is Durlabham, hard to find. So that's what we did in detail last time. And this one, verse 20, I'm going to chant. Kame ste hritatnyanaha prapadyante nyadevataha tam niyamamasthaya prakrutya niyata swaya. Kame is by desire. Te by this or that means so many different desire. This desire, that desire, many desire kind of thing. Hritatnyanaha. Those whose wisdom has been looted away because of the desire, the wisdom is looted away. Vivek ho jata hai hamara. Prapadyante. So now we are very familiar with this word, the one to surrender or approach yahan par likha hai, but basically the one who surrenders to Bhagavan. Anya Devata, other gods. And we will see what he means by that. Just to get an idea, chote mote cheezon ke piche pade rehte hum log. Tam, this or that. Again, he talks about, ye devta, wo devta, things like that. Niyamam, rites. When you do all these, so many different pujas, this, that, to fulfill the desire, unke bade niyam hote hain. So keep following those niyams. Asthaya, having followed. Prakrutya, by nature. They are talking about our own nature, which we have tendencies in us with the three gunas. Niyata, led by these tendencies. Swaya, by his own. Means our own tendency. So basically, let's see what he's talking about over here. So what he's talking about, the main thing that prevents us from surrendering. Now the whole thing was, surrendering, worshipping God. And we saw he gave many different reasons why people don't surrender. They come under the influence of Maya, and then there were 4 different kind of people who would do bad karmas, who give into Asuri, tendencies in you and us and things like that. Many different things we saw, different angles. So in this one, he's focusing on that our desires are the one that prevent us from surrendering to the higher. Now he's talking about the highest over here, So and we'll see in what context he's saying. And the two different swamis had a two different approach, and both are very interesting. Both are absolutely valid. So we will see. So what happens with the desire is that because of our nature, we are born with certain tendencies and that create desire in us, and they keep rising in us constantly. And that's a natural thing. the desire rising. But when we identify with those desires and with the sense of I, sense of ego, that's when all the trouble starts. That becomes a culprit. When it becomes a clinging desire. That's what basically we have to worry about. So what the science of desire is that whatever we have learned so far, that desire is not me. I am that Satchidanand, right? So I am different from my desire, and because I'm different from my body and mind. So that kind of understanding we have to keep. And then the consciousness, when I identify with this desire and consider them my own desire, that's when all the whole trouble starts. So Nikhilananji always comes up with a very brilliant analogy that we can connect with, that how this can happen. So he's saying as though we are sitting and some object is moving in front of us. And all of a sudden you consider that object as mine. Ye mera hai. That's how these desires he's looking at, that hey, they are not yours, but we keep thinking it's mine. And then he gave another example, that you're sitting in Gangaji and some floating some object comes in front of you, and then you immediately pick it up and you say, oh, ab to mera ho gaya. This is finders keepers, so that's how these desires he's looking at. So different kind of things can happen. And it can be, for material thing, for emotional thing, for relations, whichever way. There's so many different colors of it, of this desire. And then I want to keep fulfilling them. So, and this happens according to our quality of our own mind, our sanskaras in the past. So he actually analyzed it from a very nice way. You have heard of this. So he's saying that Rishi Munis have classified these desires into 4 different groups. And all of us who have studied a little bit of Sanatana Dharma have heard this. Arth, Dharma, Kam, and Moksha. Right? Those 4 desire main things are there. We classified into these 4. So when we talk about earth here means material things, or it also it is part of like security. I want security, protect ourselves. Body. It comes possessions as well as our body preservation. And then, so that is artha. And then kama is desire for pleasure. We all want to have a good time, have pleasures in our life, different kinds of pleasure. And then dharma ko unhone samjhaya ki bhai, we also have a desire to be good, perfect, better, or improve ourselves and all that. So that can come under dharma as our personality. And then finally the desire for moksha, Jnani will want he has a desire for moksha. But we know that the most common ones that apply to almost everybody is earth and kam, pleasure and possessions. So dharma is, some people, work on the dharma, obviously. And moksha is obviously rarer. So these two keep getting rarer. And the other classification, I don't know if you have heard of these. There are another classification in the Vedanta. 3 types of desire. It's called Vitteshana, Putreshana, and Lokeshana. So Vitteshana means desire for wealth. And Putreshana is a progeny, desire to have children. And the last one over here in this category is, but they are all, you can see they're connected with the other one too. It's just a different approach. And so the location is desire for a better place. So it can be, hey, after I die, I want to go to a better place, maybe better loka, Swarg loka or something like that. So opening up these 3 types of desire, Vitteshana, desire for wealth, property, make a good life on this earth. So we have all this desire, and including Vitteshana mein meri personality or body bhi aa jati hai. That needs to be protected, and I should be comfortable and things like that and all that. And then and also gain all the pleasures. All this comes under Vitteshana. For the pleasure, wealth is required, obviously. So I keep striving to get more and more wealth. And then we know that how from childhood also we try to tell our children, you go to good school, go to good college, and you'll get a good job and all that. Obviously those are important things, but that's not the only thing. That's what they're talking about. In some ways, from the spiritual perspective, there's a secondary still. but just we're talking about the common things now. But what he was saying is very interesting, that so we strive for all this, but somewhere deeply inside we know that we are not going to live in this world forever, right? However much we try. So he was just saying that, however much we do yogasana or eat healthy food, or ultimately we're going to die. That doesn't mean, hey, don't do good yogasana. Don't misunderstand what he's saying. But he's saying that no matter what you do, in the end, the result is that we have to leave this earth, So we kind of somewhere inside, we know that. But we also have this desire for immortality in us, because that's a very basic thing in us. So how does that come out in us? That, hey, even if after I'm gone, my name should be there, or that's how this desire to have children come, hey, they carry on my name and things like that, So they are kind of connected with each other, all these things, because of this desire for immortality, but it comes out in a different way if we don't know what it is. That's how it is. So he's saying that some people who don't have children, they also want some kind of name to be left behind when they are gone. So they might write their autobiography or some article, or donate something and have a statue somewhere. We know all those things also happen. So basically, I don't want to die, but it's going to happen. So that's why I want to leave behind something. That kind of feeling. Yeah? So, and then he was saying that even spiritual people will want some disciples. That is, oh, main falane ka guru ka main chela hu kind of thing. Even there, some desires are there for this continuity. So these are the desires that prevent us from surrendering to that highest. We get caught up in this. This is what they were talking about. And then the which one was it? Lokeshana, yes. The third kind of desire, that when I leave this world, I want to gain a better life. So, after death, that's why people do so a lot of yagnas, this, that, dan, punya karma and all that. Swarg milega mujhe, Or if I am born again, I should have a better life. Those are also normal kind of desires, So these are the 3 inbuilt strong desires within us. So this is what prevents us from dropping that identity of ours. Because, the whole idea is that dropping my ego and identity, because if you want the highest, that's what you have to do. So what happens is, when I get caught up in all these things and I don't see beyond this, then I fail to drop my identity, and because I want to, even after body fails, I want to continue. So that's where my mind goes into. So what he was saying is that this kind of attachment and all that interfere with our personality and stops me from surrendering to the highest reality that Krishna Bhagavan is talking about over here. So basically, then the conclusion is, unless I give up what I'm holding, I cannot attain and that highest, attain and realize that infinity. Because here we are talking about infinity. So you have to drop the finite to get to the infinity. And unfortunately, we get caught up in the finite, So he gave the example of, space and a wall. If I want to experience infinity, and if I just close myself in a wall, then I have to break that wall. You don't necessarily have to break it like physically, but mentally you have to break that wall to experience that infinite space. Same way here, to have to experience that infinite Brahman, I have to give up this, finite things. So what do I do? So this is where this verse kind of explains it, that to fulfill these desires, I perform action firstly, myself. And if these actions are not sufficient to fulfill my desire, I take some other help from other people, other things, friends, family members, society, whatever. And if they also cannot help, then I surrender to these little devatas. Actually, वो देवतास का पावर भी भगवान से आ रहा है. बट मैं भगवान को भूल के और आई एम जस्ट लिटिल देवता के पीछे में पड़ी हूँ, you know. So because what Krishna Bhagavan is explaining in this verse, that he's talking about that this word over here, hritagnyana, meaning my discrimination is hijacked, as though kidnapped. Mera vivek hijack ho gaya, driven away, and because of my intense desire. I cannot see that highest, you know. And so he was saying that how, especially this is true in India, that in the world you would find so many little devatas, hundreds of them, and 33 crore, I forget about 100 of them. So who are these? You know, like two different swamis took two different approaches, and I said both are very valid. So it means that these powers that I think will fulfill my desire, and they do have those powers. It's not like they don't. And then we talked about it in the previous verse. It's like, hey, trying to be friends with the minister or becoming a minister. You see the difference? So here I'm trying to be friends with this minister. That's where I got it. So who are these little devta? It can be a human being. It can be a graha. बोलते ना कि भाई शनि बैठ गया मेरे ऊपर, ये हो गया, वो हो गया, whatever, I don't know. और they do all these ग्रह शांति की पूजा वगैरह लोग करते हैं, और अंगूठियां पहनते हैं, बोलते 10 उंगली में 10 अंगूठियां पहनेंगे, because you know, hey, this some good things will happen to me, I will get this or that, you know. Various aspects of this, you know. And then various forces of nature, Indra Devta bolo, Varun Devta, and India में Gram Devta भी होते हैं. Like I know that we have this, my grandfather, he comes from a town, and they have a Kul Devi, and you must have heard of Kul Devi. So जब भी कोई वहाँ जाता है सबसे पहले वहाँ जाओ, you know. So things like that, various devtas, and then he was just saying that how so many temples are there, and if somebody tells you, oh, you know, you go to that temple, your wish will be fulfilled, so you go running over there, and if your wish is fulfilled, then that temple becomes more popular, because then you're going to go and tell everybody else about it, you know. And more people will be coming. More desire gets fulfilled, and then this type of activity continues, and that prevents you from surrender. He's taking you to the highest level. That's why he's saying that, you know. It's not like, hey, don't do this or do that, but if you want that highest thing, then you actually have to go to the highest. It's something like, I know I have Dristant, I'm remembering that this one fellow, you know, who was like a fakir type of fellow, he goes to a राजा के दर, उसके महल के सामने खड़ा होता है, एंड कहता है कि मेरे को राजा को बुलाओ, मेरे को मांगना है उससे, कुछ चाहिए मुझे. तो वो बोला नहीं, राजा नहीं आ सकता. तो बोला क्यों? तो बोला वो ना भगवान से कुछ मांग रहा है. तो बोला अच्छा, मैं सोचा था मैं ही भिखारी हूँ, तो वो भी भिखारी है. अच्छा, वो भगवान से मांग रहा, तो फिर मैं उससे क्यों मांगू, मैं भी सीधा भगवान से ही मांगता हूँ. You know, that's a drishtant, that, you know, that we are going after all these, and these chote mote devtas also getting power from that highest self, you know. So might as well bypass this and go to the higher. That's what Krishna Bhagavan is telling in this verse. So and he also, what Nikhilanandji was saying, that sometimes more effort is required to please these chota mota guys. बोलते ना कि अगर किसी, जैसे कि प्रेसिडेंट है, समथिंग, इट्स जस्ट एनालॉजी, हाँ, प्रेसिडेंट है और उसके लिeutenants है, जो भी है, उनके मंत्री जो भी हैं, मंत्री को प्लीज करना ज़्यादा डिफिकल्ट है. अगर वो, इफ यू गो स्ट्रेट अप्रोच दी प्रेसिडेंट, वो खाली एक इशारे से सब कुछ दे देगा तुमको. इसको तो पता नहीं क्या क्या करना पड़ेगा, घूस देनी पड़ेगी, ये करना पड़ेगा, वो करने का. जस्ट एनालॉजी, ओके. So he's saying that, really speaking, Bhagwan is not asking for anything. No big ritualism, no nothing. He's just telling, surrender to me. You know, I'll take care of you if you surrender to me. And there is a very famous verse that Nikhilanandji mentioned that we are going to come across in chapter 9, Ananta Chinta Yanto Mam. Ye jana, whatever, I don't remember exact words now. I don't know how to chant right now. It's not in front of me. Where Bhagwan says, Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham. कि अगर तुम पूरे मन से मेरे पे surrender हो जाओ, you know, like we have learned these two words, Ek Bhakti and Nitya Yukta, it came in the previous verses. Ek bhakti नहीं, then I will, मैं तुम्हारे योग और क्षेम का भार वहन करूंगा. Means yoga and क्षेम means whatever you need, and after what you get, protecting it. I will take care of it. And that's why you say people who do, kuch achhi samaj seva and all, they are taken care of. Everybody will come and take care of them. So this is what he was talking about, that to surrender to that highest, you don't need something too much. Okay. And then what he was saying, Nikhilanandji, that's what he's saying. But what happens to us is our desires are so strong that we don't do it. We don't surrender to the highest. So then he came up with another example, which he has mentioned many times in different contexts. He's saying it's like a person cannot sleep, because person cannot surrender to sleep. Why? Because there's some anxiety. Some desire is there in their mind. Some worry is there. Worry is also kind of desire only. ऐसा हो जाए, नहीं होगा तो क्या होगा? This is connected with desire or worry actually. That means I am not available because I'm hijacked by my worry. So I thought that was a very good example. And then he's saying that even if somebody will talk about that highest, you will get annoyed and just tell them to just shut up, because you're so consumed by your, desire. And then he was just saying, in general, he was saying that if you, tell somebody about the spiritual, some things who are not interested in it, they will say, abhi mera time nahi aaya. Abhi time nahi aaya, isme kabhi samay aata hi nahi hai. He's saying that you can be retired, you can become old, you'll still say, itni jaldi kya hai? Abhi Bhagwan ke liye abhi time nahi hai mere paas. He was just saying in general how things happen. And he's saying that finally Yamraj is coming at your door and standing there. Then it becomes too late. So he's just saying, wake up. And then he was just saying that even in the old age, if somebody got sick, to usko Bhagwan yaad aayega thodi der ke liye. We know that, right? Sometimes it happens. But miraculously you get better, then again you forget about Bhagwan. And then you start talking about other things and all that. So he was just reminding that actually what Krishna Bhagwan is saying, this is very important. All the other things compared to this are less important. But we don't see it that way. So he's saying this is absolute essential thing. Primary agenda should be to gain this enlightenment. Baki, everything comes under secondary agenda. That's what he was saying. And then another thing that always saints and sages say, hey, tumko ye life mili hai, and you have a chance now, because, most of it, like our teacher used to say, whoever is in the study group, they are doing pretty good. Everything is taken care of and you have come here to study. So hey, here is your chance. You don't know when you will get that second chance. Yes, you will get it in other lives and all that, but we don't know in what condition, how long it will take, nothing we know. So might as well make use of it. That's what the saints and sages say. And then he also reminded us, because we have already had so many lives, so really speaking, whatever you are craving to experience, there is a huge possibility that you have already experienced it in some life or the other. So that's why just don't think, oh my God, I have not experienced. You've already done it. And because we have countless lives. And who knows, you may be gone into other lokas also. कौन से लोक में से जाके आया हो सकता है स्वर्ग लोक में से भी जाके आए हो. But unfortunately what our problem is, we want to keep repeating all these pleasure seeking things. And then we are propelled by this desire, propelled to attain this or that. And, so that is a basic summary of it, this verse, that our Vivek get hijacked or kidnapped and all that. And then we get sucked into all these different desires. So, and one more interesting point he said, I thought that was very, very interesting. He said that unfortunately, even the supreme reality, like Krishna has declared, right? Krishna not as a body, okay? Krishna as a Brahman, as a Atman, my Atman, or Ramachandraji, or Ganesha, whoever you can call. If you read Ganesh Puran, then you can call that energy as, or not energy, that consciousness as Ganesh. Or if you read Ramayana, then you will see Ram Bhagwan, right? Anyone. So each one can be worshipped as a supreme reality. There's no problem. Okay? But उनको भी हमने little देवता बना दिया है. you know. So that was a very, very important point, because I think that we all kind of victim of this somewhere, you know, and that's why एक कोई मूर्ति में देखना शुरू कर देंगे तो उसी में कर देंगे, you know, ये नहीं कि भाई he's everywhere, things like that. No, so many different kind of angle to look at this particular concept that he talked about, that we have reduced that. Or the other thing I was saying, you know, Krishna Bhagwan ka sabse important cheez, if you know, in my heart actually I feel it is his Bhagavad Gita. If somebody says I'm a Krishna Bhakta, that's the first thing they should be studying. But there are so many people who will consider themselves absolute Krishna Bhakta, will run here, run there to every temple, but they'll never open the book. Or, you know, or they just know 2-3 shlokas, but they never take the time to study. So that's how we reduce it to kind of smaller devta, even the greatest of these, you know, Bhagwans. So I thought that was it's a very unfortunate thing that happens. So, and then he gave another analogy that we have kind of, it is a similar one that I just said, but has a different color to it, that it's like there is a great king, you know, who can give you so much, and you go there and you ask for one rupee from him. You know, that's how cheap we've become, that when we ask for small things, you know, and it's saying just ask for a little trophy or little peanuts from him, rather than what he's capable of giving. So here is saying, Shiv Bhagwan is saying, hey, come to me, I can give you moksha, I can make you Shiva. Okay? You yourself can become Shiva. तो उसको जाके बोलेंगे, अरे मेरी नौकरी लगवा दो, अरे मुझे ये छोकरी दे दो, whatever, you know, ये टोकरी दे दो. He was just, he's very funny. निखिल आनंद जी said, इन्होंने rhyme कर दिया, नौकरी छोकरी और टोकरी, पैसे की टोकरी. You know, so it's just like, hey, why are you asking for these small things? We don't think about all these things. So he's saying, भगवान भी सोच रहे होंगे कि अरे इसको मैं मोक्ष दे सकता हूँ, उसको कह रहा हूँ कि तू मैं ही बन जाऊं. मतलब it's like the river becoming the ocean, and river is saying, no, I don't want the ocean, you know, resisting it so much and asking for this little thing here and there and all that. So that's what this, you know, when he was talking about that, you go to these different devatas. And saying that even if suppose the thought will come to us now, that hey, I want to merge with God and all that, we will say not now. You know, baad mein. So these are the things that happen to us, you know, and because we don't understand the importance of it. And then the second line, you know, or second part of it is a prapadyante anya devata. So he's saying chote mote devata ki aradhana karna. So he was just saying that in our country, you know, he was talking about India, people get so confused in Hinduism if you don't understand it properly. Because remember, we talk about millions of devata, 33 crore devata and all that. He's saying every day a new devata pops up there. You know, so he's saying that, and even that when you have a special devta of a special, say, village, for example, huh? So they say, oh, it's very powerful, and then you have to follow those niyam, because it's second line mein bola hai na, this niyam or that niyam, they start following, because वो सब नियम होते हैं, तो वो सब करने, to fulfill our desire, we are doing all that. Okay, and then how does this happen? Why does this happen? This last line, prakrita niyata swaya, means propelled by my own prakriti, my own nature, my own swabhava, I'm doing this. So people in this world move and propelled by their desires or their swabhava and fail to surrender to me. So that's the conclusion. So what we need to do, we need to drop our desire. But he was also saying that desires are very, very powerful thing. And what Chinmayanand used to say, it's like when we get attached to something, that kind of desire they're talking about, clinging desire. I plus I want. First it's me, I assert myself, my ego, I want this. My way or the highway kind of thing, you know. So these kind of things he's talking about. So he's saying that that's why we need a lot of courage. And what kind of courage we need? I don't want what I want. That, you know, like in our Chinmaya mission over here in San Diego, the moment you enter, they have it, Swamiji saying, freedom is not to do what you feel like doing. And people get very confused. Is there sometimes, you know, like our Acharya was saying that sometimes some workers come and they just stand there and they read saying, what does it mean? Not to do what I feel like doing because you don't want to become slave of your mind. That's what actually it means. Because our lower mind is going to say, do this, do that, and your wisdom is saying no, and your wisdom wins. So freedom is not to do what you feel like doing. The same way, I don't want what I want. That's how. Not interested in what I want. That's what you have to move towards. So he's saying that he was explaining that when you lose interest in my little self, because this is our little self, me and mine constantly. So he's saying that don't get interested in our own little personality, because what we are doing is we are becoming a slave of our personality, sevak of our little personality, constantly fulfilling this desire and that desire. And he's saying this kind of becoming slave to our own desires comes out in two different ways. Either I become very miserable and then I keep telling people, oh, aisa hua, vaisa hua, karke I keep crying about it. Or, I keep trying to pacify, by my personality, by giving one pleasure or the other. So two different ways it can come out, So it's saying that idea is not to get sucked into that and seek only that supreme. And he also reminded us that it can be very frightening also, because to gain that supreme, if you have to give all the little thing, and I was just trying to think of an analogy of it. It's like, people who do skydiving, pehli bar, they have to just jump. Right? And sometimes, somebody else has to literally push them because you're so scared, because you're giving up that plane and everything comfortable and you're going in the unknown, but you have to have that faith that everything will happen correctly, something like that. And then he also gave a very nice another example. It's like he's saying, I'm dreaming something. Now I get so attached to my dream that unless I give up the dream and wake up, I will not become a waker. I will be living in that dream. Same way he was talking about. It's like sometimes hard to understand this concept, but with analogy we can. So this is what it is. And then next verse is going to tell, Krishna Bhagavan is saying, the people who worship these little devatas, unke saath kya hota hai? He's going to tell in the next verse. So this is what this verse is. I hope I explained okay. I'm not sure. Any question, comment, or anybody want to add anything? Yeah, Urmilji. You have to unmute, Urmilji. You're not unmuted still. Oh, you can't unmute. There is a little red. Are you on the phone? No, still. Sorry. I don't know how it is on the phone. Maybe somebody can explain to Urmilji how to unmute.
Urmilji, go on top of your phone, press the mute button, then come down and mute it. If you're pressing the bottom one, it won't do it.
Yeah, जो जाम का गिलास खड़ा है उसको.
Okay, got it.
Okay, got it. Okay, yes, Urmilji.
Thank you. Now, I was just, when you said little devtas or mandirs or whatever we go after, do you think it's same way people run after these sadhus and rishis?
Oh, yeah. All of that is true also. See, we have to use our discrimination when we follow some sadhu and all, because if it is not sitting properly with you, just because somebody else is saying it, it doesn't mean anything. So I think that everything comes under that little, and it doesn't mean that don't go to temples. So don't misunderstand them. If you go to the temple and you look at Krishna as that your own self and you're bowing down, that's just great. Because mandir is a place, where everything, the environment is very good. Sometimes you may not be able to do some prayer or whatever that you're trying to connect to the higher. But what happens is, if I don't know my final goal, there's a danger of getting caught into this lower thing. That's what he's cautioning you against. So we have to take it in a absolutely right manner, because somebody will say, hey, well, that means sare mandir bekar hai, sab sadhu bekar. No, nothing like that. Hey, you should know your goal, and then you will automatically get the vivek of what to do and what not to do. So that's how I will put it. Yeah. Any other comment, question? Okay, we can read. Any volunteers to read? Yeah. Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah.
Those whose wisdom has been looted away by this or that desire go to other gods. Following this or that norm. Hello?
Yes, kya hua?
Acha. Following this or that norm led by their own nature. Desire for the sense objects of the world and for sense gratification are the great factors which constantly cloud the discriminative potentialities in the human intellect. It is impossible that an individual is not made conscious of his own self in the light of a powerful and strong discrimination.
So here Swamiji is starting with whole explanation with the fact that desire for the sense objects in the world and sense gratification to satisfy my senses, these are the great reason for our discriminative potential get clouded. And there is if you go back to chapter 3, absolute detail mein unhone bataya gaya hai कि it starts with the senses, because the first contact senses se hi hota hai in the duniya mein. And then we are born with likes and dislikes. And then if you come under the sway of likes and dislikes, then the problem starts, because then it becomes love and hate at an emotional level. I put emotions into it. Then it penetrates further into me. Then it becomes, I just start justifying. Oh, ये तो मुझे चाहिए ही, और ऐसा तो होना ही चाहिए, and things like that. So this is how the whole thing starts. So basically the message in chapter 3 he gave, focus on your duty. Don't come under your sway and likes and dislikes. Because when I'm trying to focus on my duty, I cannot say. It's like a mother. Hey, I'm very sleepy, but my child is sick. You know what I'm saying? I want to go with likes and dislikes. Or, or I'm tired and this and then. None of that works over there. Just that's the best example. So that's how, what your, and then it described in detail what your duties are, special duties, everyday duties, family duties, society duty, everything. Focus on that. And then, but if I come under the sway of likes and dislike, or here it forms into a desire, and then I come under its sway, my intellect gets clouded, covered. And then they talked about 3 different kind of coverings over there. One was the sattvic covering, it's like a little smoke on a fire, little bit gyan se wo nikal jata hai. Then there was rajasic kind of covering hoti hai. Which dust on the mirror. You have to scrub it, do some effort. And third kind was like a fetus in the womb. It has to mature. It's not that easy. When tamasic desires are there, you have to become a mature person. It might take another birth, you might have to take. All that has been linked with it. So that's how you think that it gets covered. But if we keep our vivek high, he's saying vivek agar hamara hijack nahi hoga, then we will definitely connect with that higher. That's what he's trying to say in this paragraph.
When the discriminative capacities are looted away, those deluded individuals immediately engage themselves in some ritualism or other, ordered by their nature to procreate one devata or the other.
It's called propitiate. Propitiate matlab unko please karna. To please somebody, huh?
Propitiate one devata or the other. Here the entire stanza comes to yield almost no sense at all. if we follow only the dictionary meaning of its words, as the translators usually do, I do not mean that its word meaning is incorrect, but not forgetting that the Gita is a universal scripture, when we read the stanza, we should expect Lord Krishna to discuss therein a truth and more universal than merely a given religious faith. This attitude of our approach to the study of the Gita is endorsed by Sri Murari himself when he promises in an earlier stanza, Gita 7.2, that he will be declaring to Arjuna not only the theoretical knowledge of the Vedika declaration, Janana, but also the practical experience, Vijana, of its inner meaning.
Okay, so here these words are that he will be declaring to Arjuna not only the theoretical knowledge, which is jnana, and the practical experience, vijnana. When they do the English transliteration, sometimes, you cannot read it correctly, but it's jnana vijnana yoga, unhone bataya. So here, Swamiji is going to take you in a slightly different angle. It is again connected to chapter 3, that he's going to talk about what these devatas are. He's going to take you to a whole idea of that in this world, there's a productive potential in everything. It's going to come in the next couple of paragraphs, but I'll just explain it because there are a lot of people join much later. So it's like we have to work towards reaping those productive potential. And the best example I can give is that agriculture. Okay, the seeds are there, but I have to sow it, I have to plant it, I have to weed it, I have to make sure irrigation is there and all that. उसके बाद उसका रिजल्ट आएगा. So मेरे को काफ़ी मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी उसमें ये सब डालने के लिए. तो हमारे जो डिज़ायर को फुलफिल करने के लिए हम लोग इतना मेहनत करते हैं, So obviously, to live we need money and house and things like that. But when we disproportionately just keep doing that and never inquire who I am, that's when all the problem starts. Just make your life just to please your senses or, having a security and things like that. So he's just talking about, he's calling this productive potential as the devata in it. That I am pleasing those devata means I'm doing all the mehnat and then in return they give me the result. Something like that, okay?
So, Umaji, Gyan and Vigyan, isn't that the same thing?
No. So if you remember the beginning of this chapter, what Krishna Bhagwan told Arjun, that I am going to listen to me carefully, he said, and, put your mind to me and all that. That was the first verse was there. I'm going to teach you both Gyan and Vigyan. Gyan is like a information. It's more like a knowledge which has not become your experience yet. And Vigyan is when you have experienced it, wisdom. एक तो बोलते हैं wise man और एक बोलते हैं knowledgeable man. Knowledgeable man is like a book. He has everything in his head. He can spit it out. He can tell you, but he doesn't have his own experience. और जो wisdom होता है ना, उसने खुद सब experience किया हुआ होता है. So when he said wisdom means I'll make you experience God. That's why in this chapter, there was a whole section where it's how to experience God. Then he said, I am the sapidity in the water. I am the tej of the sun and moon. That's how you experience me. I'm the dharma of the, righteous, and I'm the intelligence of the intelligent people, things like that. So that becomes a wisdom when we experience it that way. So that's the difference.
Earlier, we were told that the deity for whose propitiation we performed the yagna was none other than the productive potential in any given field of activity. Reading the stanza in the light of this interpretation, we may say that the deity mentioned here denotes nothing other than the various joys contained in the different sensuous fields which are quoted by us. When we get ourselves lashed by desires in order that we may gain a complete and exuberant satisfaction from them.
So here mere mein likha exhaustive satisfaction. Basically he just said whatever I explained, that there are this propitiation, we are perform different yagnas, and on one thing you can say that jaise Raja Dashrath ne kiya putra kameshti yagya, because he had a desire to have the son. Obviously he's a king, so we are not saying it's a wrong desire, right desire. I'm just giving an example. Obviously it was a right desire for him because he was a king and he has to make sure that his praja is taken care of. So that's why he wanted a son. So that all these yagnas or whatever we do, or a productive potential in field of activity to fulfill our desire, we are doing this, or to for exhaustive satisfaction for them, we do all these things.
What does it mean by exhaustive satisfaction?
ताकि हम लोग को एकदम तृप्त हो जाए हम. हम लोग यही करते हैं ना सारा टाइम कि भाई हमको ये चाहिए वो चाहिए. Effort. Like worldly things ले लो. Forget about yagnas and all that. Okay, I want to buy a house. How much effort do I put in it, right? I will go every weekend, I will look here, look there. So तेरे को बस सबसे best घर मिले. Exhaustive satisfaction, That's what he's talking about, yes.
We're talking about Devata. Devata is what, in this point, I thought is not going to the temple, is not praying to those, but that itself, what you're looking for becomes the Devata.
Correct. So both of them are correct. That's exactly what I say. Even जो देवता हम लोग जाके मत्था टेकते हैं, इंडिया में तो बहुत होता है कि भाई 1,001 रुपया चढ़ाऊंगी मैं, ये हो जाएगा वो लड्डू लेके भाग रही हूँ and all that. It's all that same thing, right? Here what you're doing, there also you're doing some effort, right? You are trying to bargain with that devata, right? Or please, अब कोई बोलेगा ये यज्ञ करो, उसके लिए सुबह उठना पड़ेगा और नहाना पड़ेगा और 7 दिन तक जाके ये पूजा करनी पड़ेगी. We know all that, right? Santoshi Mata and every Friday, all that. So that's one kind of devata. Other devata is talking productive potential. Whatever I want in the world, उसका भी एक देवता होता है. That is called
बन जाता है.
बन जाता नहीं है. It is a known fact. It's a known fact. It's something like this. Okay. I'll go back to the 10th grader, how we explain this productive potential. We have Silicon Valley here, right? Silicon Valley mein, there is a productive potential because they have, why it became, because there's silicon there. But silicon to zameen mein hai. So they have to work hard. Those people have to go there. They have to, make companies. They have to acquire skills and all. Then the productive potential come out of that town. So that becomes the devata of that town. It's not a bad thing by any means. But what Krishna Bhagwan is telling over here, if that's all you do, you're going to miss the boat.
Right, because that's outside. That's inert material still.
Yes.
But who's providing this, even for the outward, who's providing that? They forget that what's in you.
And yeah, you can say that for sure. The silicon, everything is coming from that higher self. That's why I gave that analogy. Hey, bypass the chota mota devta. Why don't we go? If you have a chance to meet the president or become the president yourself, forget about it. Even go 2 steps further, you got everything anyway. So he's telling you to bypass the small to get the highest. And to bypass the small, it's a very courageous thing to do.
But when you forget that, once you're looking outside, you forget the inside, which is providing you the effort and the energy to go outside and do the work.
Absolutely. That's why he said that the Maya is, it deludes you. All of a sudden, egotistic ho jata hai. Suppose somebody is very successful. सबसे पहले वो ठोक बजा के बोलेगा मैंने ये किया है. He completely forgets that firstly, it was not only his effort, millions of people ka effort hai uske behind. Okay? Right? Without other people's help, he can't even get up out of his bed. Right? Then, and secondly, where is he getting the intelligence? He's an instrument of that God only. God ने सोचा कि भाई this person is worthy, so मैं इसको inspiration देता हूँ. अच्छी बुद्धि देता हूँ, जो भी किसी की साइंटिफिक बुद्धि है, किसी की पोएट्री है, किसी की कुछ भी है, everything is coming from their highest. You are absolutely right. We get deluded and then we become egotistic. about it. And then we think this is the only thing.
मैंने किया है वो भी तो उससे आ रहा है.
Yes, right. So you are right from what in your line of thinking. So that's how he's explaining these things. Yes.
Desires are the springs from which thoughts continuously gurgle up to flood the mental zone and disturb the glorious reflection of the truth in it. That is so beautifully written.
Yes, that's what he's explaining. Yes. Mm-hmm.
When the mind is thus disturbed, the discriminative capacity in the intellect gets dulled. Then naturally, that individual becomes incapable of distinguishing in his understanding the real from the unreal. When thus the brilliance of the human intellect has been clouded with the vapors of desire, the owls of negativity and delusory attachments start hooting in the jungles of that mind.
क्या poetry लिखी उन्होंने, right?
एक-एक word चुन-चुन के डाला है.
Yeah, that how these owls of negativity and delusory attachment start hooting, he said.
Yeah.
When the vapors of desire cloud our brilliance. So everybody is capable of that brilliance because we all are Bhagwan ka hi ansh hain. All of us have the same thing in us, but only difference is it gets clouded by it. So that's why in our Sanatan Dharma, everybody is divine. कोई बोलेगा what about the terrorist? Yes, he is divine too. But what has happened? उसका जो cloud है वो बहुत ज़्यादा thick है. उसका एकदम जैसे the sun is shining, but a thick cloud comes. I don't know about other areas in San Diego, but we had this marine layer that went on for like a whole week. I couldn't see. Yesterday evening the sun came out, afternoon, and now today it's sunny, thank God. So that doesn't mean sun has gone, So here you're just talking that how this desire की जो desire cover कर देता है.
Jungles of his mind are overtaken.
Sorry?
जो terrorist की आप बात कर रही हैं, so we would say that the jungle of his mind is overtaken.
Yeah, means delusion. उन लोगों को ये कितना delusion है. If I do this, मैं स्वर्ग में जाऊंगा. और स्वर्ग में क्या होगा? अप्सराएं होगी और बहुत सारा कुछ अच्छा खाना पीना मिलेगा. तो somebody even joked. They said, फिर ये सब करने की क्या जरूरत है? Why don't you just go to Las Vegas then, Why you're doing all that? Complete delusion, right? How can God be happy when you kill innocent people?
Yeah.
Right? So इतना ही शौक है लड़ने का तो मैदान में आके लड़ो फिर. Like they say, you have a war rather than doing this underhanded stuff and all that. It's a delusion in your head. Somebody kind of taught them and they just believed it. That if you do this, you will go to heaven.
It is not the mere appearance of desire in the mind that causes the fall of man. No individual can resist the compelling charm of the desires rising in his bosom. But when he comes to identify himself with them, the thoughts rising in him are directly governed by his desires. When a given desire has been identified with, the desire himself unconsciously comes to lend an uncontrollable amount of dynamism to the upsurge of the flooded thoughts.
Okay, so here this is a little bit technical. So what he's saying, it is not that the mere appearance of desire causes this. Because, see, when we are born with likes and dislikes and all that, and desires are going to come in us. There is no doubt about it, and it's okay, he's saying. But when you identify with the desire, means I want this and this only. If I don't get this, I'm incomplete. It keeps you sleepless nights and things like that, just thinking about it. And the whole ladder of fall is there also in chapter 2, that how the constant one thought overtakes and, and things like that. So he's saying that once that desire, when you identify, I want this, the desire himself unconsciously come to lead and uncontrollable about our dynamism, how much they will do for it to get to fulfill one little desire, to what lengths they will go. Sometimes Vivek itna kharab ho jata hai कि they will cheat, they will do negative things just to fulfill that one desire. They will lie, cheat, do everything. So how bad somebody can, how far somebody can go, that could be one way of looking at it. Another way is how much effort they will put into it. That's why when we come to chapter 16, Asurik and Devi Sampati, Krishna Bhagwan describes that if you give in to Asuri Sampati, what will happen? Because then you will be putting so much effort. फिर एंड में जब रिजल्ट आएगा ना तो मैंने इतनी मेहनत की, मुझे तो कुछ मिला ही नहीं. Like खोदा पहाड़ निकला चूहा kind of thing. So then they get so disturbed and dejected. Hey, firstly, it was wrong to begin with. Hey, why don't you just look at it as your duty and take the result as a prasad? So even if you fail or something, you don't look at it as something so horrible happening to me. But those people who don't believe in some higher self, when they fail, it's like they can't handle it. All kind of things comes under this whole picture of this, what we are talking about. It's all related, all those things. So that's what he's talking about over here. That if you don't identify with them, you are absolutely fine. Because from morning to evening, many desires come in our head. And they are going to come because of our nature. So don't get disturbed by that. Even negative thoughts are the same way. Positive, negative thought come all day. But when I catch on to them and I want to act upon negative, that's when the problem comes. If you just let it go, hey, it's no problem. That's what he's talking about. Very practical.
Thoughts themselves are inert matter inasmuch as they are the byproduct of food, being constituted of the subtlest aspect of food consumed.
Subtlest aspect of food consumed. Subtle, yeah. Go ahead.
These inert thought waves gather a momentum and force by borrowing their strength and vigor from the self through the individual's enthusiastic identification with those desires. The surge of thoughts determines the action. The actor in the field, for the time being, is rendered incapable of discriminating whether the action undertaken can or cannot ultimately bring to him a permanent and an enduring satisfaction. Drunk with the idea that he will be at least temporarily appeased, the individual struggles hard and strives intensively to evoke and propitiate the productive potential of any given field of his activity, Devta.
So here he's calling the productive potential. So here he did a little more analysis. And sometimes, I'm part of this scientific people ka group hai. When I told them that, in Vedanta, we consider mind also as an inert thing and it is dynamized by the consciousness, some of them didn't want to listen to that at all. They say, aisa kaise ho sakta hai? Mind is not matter. But in Vedanta, we call it subtle matter. It is. And here, maybe I should take a picture of this. And some of them do have a respect for Chinmayananji and all that. I didn't make this up. This is what I have learned. Okay. So it's an inert, thoughts are inert, he's saying, matter. They are like inner byproducts of the food because we are made up completely of the food. Right? Food sheath, that's why it's called. But mind is subtle sheath. So subtlest aspect food is coming. But we give it dynamism by that self within us. Because that's what we want to do. So we are the one who are, maker of our own destiny. We are the one who's giving them supply this energy. It's like I have this computer, it's capable of doing many things, but if I don't connect it to the electricity, nothing is going to happen. It's not going to nothing. So even phone, we keep saying, we are, phone has really ruined our life. Yeah, boy. Sometimes, I heard in the Eastern, some countries, they have phone addiction, क्या बोलना चाहिए, programs now. People are addicted to their phone and that's causing them a lot of trouble. Hey, but the button is in my hand, right? So I can't blame the phone. I can shut it off. I can remove those things which is bothering me or notifications or whatever. That's what he's talking about over here. That, hey, these thoughts come, they're just subtlest part of the food consume, and you are giving them dynamism because you think your discrimination is gone. You think that by doing this, something I will gain so much happiness and satisfaction. जो गरीब होता है वो सोचता है कि मेरे को इतने पैसे मिल जाए मैं इतना खुश हो जाऊंगा, और जाके रिच पीपल को जब वो भी उतने ही दुखी हैं उनका खाली रीजन अलग होएगा, मगर कुछ ऐसा नहीं है. Because like negative things or health problem comes to everybody, whether you're poor or rich, and nothing to do with it. So many things go into it. So he's in the drunk with the idea that he will gain this temporary appeasement. He struggles and strives intensely, to gain that, or submits to that devata, which is a productive potential to gain something.
In thus invoking the devatas of a given field, the individual has to strive in a proper and fitting fashion. The methods of assembling the required instruments, the techniques of their applications, the time intervals necessary for maturing the results, and the type of gains occurred from the different kinds of applications. All these different from field to field in the world. Therefore, each one will have to follow this or that right according to the type of his desires.
So he's talking about जो ये verse में है ना, तम नियम आस्थाय, जो नियम अलग अलग नियम पालन करना पड़ता है. तो he's just telling you in the world there is कितनी मेहनत करके क्या उसका आउटकम होएगा वो हर एक का अलग अलग है, राइट? कितना एफर्ट तुम डालोगे उसमें, क्या करोगे, उसके सब नियम होते हैं. For example, there was this house built 2 houses down from ours. It was just a mountain. So करीब 6 महीने तक तो वो लोग खाली डिगी कर रहे थे. They were bringing and taking. I said, बाप रे, इतनी मिट्टी निकल सकती है एक खाली लॉट से. I could not imagine. Continuously the truck was going, and finally कभी ये बनेगा कि ये घर कि नहीं बनेगा. But after 2 years or something, finally a nice beautiful house has come up over there. Okay, so that's what it is. That there are maybe some other places a house can be built in 2 months, right? So that's what he's saying, that each thing requires all different skill, different niyams people follow, and all to get. That's how he was explaining this one.
The reason why different persons thus struggle hard so differently, leaving aside all sincere struggles to realize the self, Vasudeva alone is all these, is explained here in the second line. Each individual helplessly functions in the different fields of his temporary fascinations according to his mental impressions, rather in his earlier moments of activity and thought. To conceive that the Creator is putting ideas into each one of us, because of which one is good and another vile, is a philosophy of the defeatist, of the impotent, of the sluggard. The true men of action, with the daring of a well-developed intellect, can very easily see through men and their behaviors and come to this bold conclusion that each man acts as per schedule, maintained and ordered by himself during his own past actions.
So this last part is explaining where he's saying that prakrutya niyata swaya, my own nature ke hisab se, so I have to take the responsibility myself. That hey, whatever is happening to me, whatever I'm doing, it is ordered by my own nature. तो बोलते हैं ना, ओ भगवान सब कुछ करता है, भगवान ने ये thought मेरे में डाल दिया है ना. Very quickly we start surrendering in a wrong fashion. helpless fashion and all that. Bhagwan ne ye bhi bol diya ki if you surrender to me, you can cross the Maya. He gave you the remedy, but we don't want to do it. So basically, that's what he's saying, that we forget that hey, Vasudeva is all these things, all say power bhi chote mote power jo hai wo sab bahar se aa rahe. It's something I was thinking of the analogy. It's like just a thought, that we have different instruments in our house, right? Suppose the electricity is coming through different instrument. The instruments start thinking, hey, it's because of, my electricity this is happening. Hey, no, electricity is coming from that power. If they cut off that power, you're nowhere. Same here, all the devatas and whatever you talk about, whoever you bow down to, it's coming from that consciousness and Brahman only. That's what we forget. And then we just keep blaming, Bhagwan ke upar. The so-called, Bhagwan ko bhi lower bana diya na usme. When I'm saying, oh, he's doing like this. Means he's being very irrational. Think about it. When he say, Bhagwan is, usko itna kyun diya, mere ko kyun nahi diya, in your mind he's becoming irrational. That's what it is.
In short, a deluded entity strives hard, running after the mirage of sensuality, hoping to gain therein a satisfaction that is at once infinite and immortal. Yet another is found to have the subtle vision to discriminate and discover for himself the hollowness and futility of sense pursuit. This latter type does withdraw itself from all these ultimately unprofitable fields, and with an appetizing avidity seeks the path to the real.
So he just telling you that running after this mirage of sensuality, hoping to gain this or that, and but if you keep your vivek high and subtle vision and discrimination and all that, then he will realize the hollowness. That's what we talk about, real and unreal and things like that. Okay, so that reminded me of I had a friend in Houston. Her name was Rajni Jain, and she told me, she came before me to she was already there in Chinmaya Mission, and she was telling, sometime she was a teacher too, and sometime we would talk about how did you end up in the Chinmaya Mission to study this Vedanta and all that. So she said actually her uncle used to go, and she was just a young person, just got married, had a child, and all that. So the uncle used to always say, hey, come to Chinmaya Mission, study Vedanta. And she would say, no, not now. Abhi mera baby chota hai, abhi ye hai, abhi wo hai. So ek din bola, mera uncle ne mujhe bola, तुम्हारे पास खाने का टाइम है? So she said, है. तो बोली, ब्रश करने का टाइम है, सोने का टाइम है. तो फिर इसके लिए क्यों नहीं है? So she said, that really kind of touched my heart. And I said, so she took her baby and she went there. So she was just saying that in his mind, it was so important part of the life that, hey, how can you not do it? Kind of thing, So that's what it's talking about, that all those things will never end. The worldly things will never end. And even as I'm getting older, I'm getting more, busy. Sucked in. You saw last time I was doing the class from my son's house because he was like, oh, Mom, can you please help me? Yeah, boy. So, okay, I'm not going to give up my class. I can do it from your house. He said, okay, that'll work. So compromise karna pada. Okay, I don't want to give up this, So that's what it is, that you just bring time somehow, find time to continue your whatever you want to do. Yeah.
I'm going to complete the last line. What then is the function of the Atman, the guardian angel in each one of us?
So he's just going to say that how these jo consciousness hi sabhi ko dynamize karti hai, even these devtas and all that. It'll be more analysis in the next verse. But this was, Swamiji's commentary was very long, but very exhaustive. And I think by reading and analyzing his commentary, it sunk into her, hopefully, what they're trying to say. That don't give up that ultimate goal. That's the whole message over here. Don't get sucked into all these small things and forget why you became here on this earth.
I mean, that's how I felt like we're just looking outside and not, looking inside the whole time. This is what is described with desires and all those. We keep on looking outside and forget where's the power coming from. As you mentioned, electricity. Where is that coming from, even to do the outside things?
Correct.
And this is what it is, the whole thing is.
Right. How to direct your attention to that higher self in all different circumstances. That's what. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
To look within, where is that power coming, even for those little things?
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. Any other comment, question? Anybody want to add anything?
Yeah, I have a comment. I think I talked about this earlier, and you said there's nothing in Gita which talks about that. But I'm referring to this Ramanand Sagar Gita, where Arjun asked the question to Krishna. When Krishna says that some people worship me, some people worship other people, like the shopkeepers who give you the desires, and but they are also coming from me. Arjun asked him, why are they worshipping him? Why don't they worship you directly? And his answer was, to worship me, you have to be refined through multiple lifetimes. So then you can worship Krishna. So while you are listening to all this class, it is because you have already refined yourself to be able to look at that level.
True.
Otherwise, we'll be happy in giving Tuesday Hanumanji Vishal and get the result.
Yeah, so you're right. These are the verses, and they come in all different chapters in different flavor, but the message is that what you're saying.
Yeah.
And sometimes, when they make these serials or series on TV, the idea is the same. They might use different words to say it, but the idea is there in Bhagavad Gita for sure. Yeah. And that's why, when it's already 12:10, maybe at the discussion time I wanted to bring, but you had put that analysis of Shiva Sutra versus Bhagavad Gita. And I think Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna Bhagwan's intention is to take you to the highest only. All the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and all, those are just means. They are not the end by itself. That's what just the different means to get there. So whatever they say in Shiv Sutra or other things, it's the same message actually. That's how I looked at it. But we can discuss it more. And if nobody has any other burning question, I can finish the Bhagavad Gita here today. So we can do our Taittiriya. And we'll still have some time at the end if anybody has any question. Okay? Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhya moksha ishyami ma shuchah. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.